The weekend alone. I never used to be afraid of being alone. In fact, I liked it. I didn't get much of it growing up, and when I finally moved out, I enjoyed the silence, the freedom, the space. So, when my parents told me they were going away for the weekend, I wasn't worried. It wasn't the first time I'd had the house to myself, and I figured it would be a quiet couple of days. I was wrong. I didn't know that by the time the weekend was over, I'd be begging for someone to find me. It started on Friday evening. My parents left just before sunset, their bags packed. My mom giving me the usual rundown. There's food in the fridge. Lock the doors. Don't answer for strangers. I waved them off, promising I'd be fine. And for a while the house was quiet after they left. Too quiet. I turned on the TV, let it play in the background while I scrolled through my phone. Hours passed without anything out of the ordinary. Then, at exactly 9:37 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the security app. Motion detected. Front door. I frowned and pulled up the camera feed. The porch was empty. I checked the timestamp, replaying the footage. For a few seconds, the screen showed nothing but the usual view. The porch light casting long shadows, the street beyond empty. Then, the motion alert triggered. The screen glitched, just for a moment. And when it cleared, the front door was open. Just slightly. I paused. The door was locked. I was sure of it. A chill crawled down my spine. I stood up, phone in hand, and walked toward the front entrance. The door was closed. I checked the lock. Still secure. I hesitated before stepping back. Maybe it was a glitch, a bug in the camera system. I told myself that and went back to the couch, but I kept my phone nearby, watching the security feed like a hawk. Nothing else happened. Not for a while. Then, at 11:15 p.m., another notification. Motion detected. Backyard. I froze. The backyard didn't have a gate. No way in except through the house. Hands sweating, I opened the camera feed. The screen flickered. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then, a shadow passed by the camera. Too fast to make out. I held my breath. My fingers tightened around the phone. The yard was still. Then the motion sensor light flicked on. Something was out there. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stand. I didn't want to go to the back door, but I needed to check. I crept through the house, my footsteps too loud in the silence. When I reached the back window, I peered out. The yard was empty, but the sensor light was still on. I waited. The seconds stretched long, but nothing moved. Eventually, the light shut off. I turned away, but just as I did, knock. Soft. Slow. I spun back, heart pounding. The sound had come from the back door. I stared. No one was there. Then, another knock. 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 I backed away. The security feed still showed nothing. I didn't answer. I didn't move. And finally, after what felt like an eternity, the knocking stopped. I waited another few minutes, then forced myself to breathe. It was fine. Maybe just some animal. Maybe the wind. I told myself that, but deep down I knew better. Still, I locked the back door, double-checked the windows, and made my way upstairs. I was tired, and if I let myself think about it too much, I'd never sleep. I climbed into bed, my phone still in my hand, the security app open, just in case. Then, at 3 a.m. I woke up, and I wasn't alone. I woke up gasping, the kind of wake-up where your body moves before your brain does, before you even know why you're awake. The room was dark, except for the faint glow from my phone screen beside me. The time read 3 a.m. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Inside the house. I went completely still. At first I thought I imagined it. Maybe it was a dream bleeding into reality. But then there it was again. Soft. Deliberate. Not creaking floorboards from the house settling. Actual footsteps. Moving slowly. I felt my heartbeat hammering against my ribs. The sound of it so loud I thought whoever was out there might hear it. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to confirm that someone else was in the house, but I had to. Holding my breath, I reached for my phone, hands trembling. I pulled up the security app. Living room camera, nothing. Kitchen camera, empty. Hallway camera, I stopped breathing. There was a shadow outside my bedroom door. The figure was motionless, facing my door, not moving, just standing there. The security feed glitched, the image flickering. When it cleared, the hallway was empty. But I hadn't heard footsteps, hadn't heard movement. I swallowed down the panic rising in my throat. Slowly, I slid out of bed, moving as quietly as possible. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I turned on the flashlight. The beam was weak, shaky, but enough to see my bedroom door was still closed. I listened. Nothing. Then, a sound from downstairs. A thud, like something heavy being moved. I forced myself forward, inching toward the door. My fingers hovered over the handle. Should I open it? I hesitated. Then my phone buzzed. A text message. From my own number. 3 words. Why are you up? I nearly dropped the phone. My throat was too dry to swallow. I read the message again. Then, a second text came in. Open the door. I backed away. I wanted to run, to hide, to do anything but stand there staring at my phone. Then, something tapped against my door. Once, twice, slow, like whoever was outside knew I was awake. I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to breathe. I wasn't going to open it. Not a chance. The tapping stopped. Silence stretched between me and whatever was on the other side. Then the doorknob twisted. I jumped back, heart slamming into my ribs. The handle turned halfway, then stopped. I stared, my whole body tense. Then, in the dead silence, a whisper, right outside my door. I know you're awake. I couldn't move, couldn't even breathe. The whisper wasn't normal. It wasn't a person's voice. It sounded wrong, like someone trying to copy a voice but failing. I gripped my phone tighter, my pulse hammering. I had to get out. I had to do something. Forcing my shaking hands to work, I typed a message back. Who are you? The reply came instantly. You. My skin went ice cold. Then, the doorknob stopped moving. Silence. No footsteps walking away. No more whispers. Just nothing. I stayed frozen for what felt like hours. Waiting. Listening. When I finally worked up the courage, I inched forward and pressed my ear against the door. Still nothing. Maybe it was gone. I exhaled shakily. Then my phone buzzed again. Another text. No words. Just a photo. I clicked on it, and my stomach dropped. It was a picture of me, sleeping in my bed, taken from inside the room. I nearly screamed. I stumbled backward, my head spinning, my stomach twisting into knots. My bed was right behind me. There was nowhere to hide. No way for someone to have taken that picture. Unless they had already been in here. I choked down a sob, my fingers barely able to hold on to my phone. I needed to get out. Now, I turned to the window. I could climb out, run. But as I reached for the lock, my phone buzzed again. Another picture. This one was outside the house. A dark figure stood in the yard, looking up at my window. Then, a message. I wouldn't do that. My vision blurred. My breath came in short gasps. I was trapped. Something was inside with me, and something else was watching from outside. Then the closet door creaked open. The closet door creaked open, inch by inch, slow enough that I could hear every splinter of wood shift. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I knew I wasn't going to like what was inside. The light from my phone barely reached into the closet's depths. The darkness inside was too thick, too deep, as if the closet was more than just a space. It was something else. I should have run. I should have slammed the door shut and never looked inside. Instead, I reached out. My fingers hovered over the edge of the closet door, heart pounding so violently I thought I might pass out. The smell hit me first. Damp earth. Rotten. Old. Like something had been buried for a long time. I took a step closer. Then the phone buzzed in my hand. A new text message. No name. No number. Just 3 words. Go downstairs now. I swallowed hard. I didn't want to listen. I didn't want to leave the room at all. But then, from inside the closet, a hand reached out. I ran. Out of the bedroom. Down the hall. The walls seemed closer than before, as if they were shifting while I moved. I reached the staircase, barely keeping my footing as I stumbled down. The whole house felt wrong. The air was thicker, heavier, like it was pressing against my skin. I reached the bottom of the stairs, my breath ragged, my heart threatening to rip through my chest. Then I saw it, the basement door. It was open, and it hadn't been before. I gripped my phone tighter, my hands trembling. The screen flickered. The security camera feeds were down, all except one, the basement camera. The feed was live, and it was showing something moving below. I clenched my jaw. I could leave. I could run outside, break a window, try to escape. But something told me that wouldn't work. That whatever had been texting me knew every step I would take. I swallowed hard, and then slowly I stepped forward. The basement was colder than the rest of the house. Much colder. With each step, the smell of earth grew stronger. I reached the bottom, my phone flashlight casting a weak glow over the concrete floor. I turned, scanning the room, and then I saw it. A hidden door. It was set into the wall, barely noticeable under layers of dust. A padlock hung from the latch. A wave of nausea rolled through me. Something was inside. Something that had been locked away. I reached for the lock, my fingers slick with sweat. Then, the phone buzzed. A new text. No words, just a picture. I clicked on it, my breath catching in my throat. It was a photo of me, standing in front of the hidden door, taken from inside the room. I dropped my phone. It hit the floor with a dull thud, the screen flickering. My head was spinning. I wasn't alone down here. Something was on the other side of the door, watching me. I grabbed my phone, my fingers barely working, my breath ragged. The screen glitched. Another text. Let me out. I staggered backward. No. I wasn't opening that door. Then, from the other side, a whisper. Soft. Close. Please. I turned and ran. I didn't look back. I flew up the basement stairs, my legs burning, my lungs tight. The second I reached the kitchen, I slammed the door shut behind me, locked it, stepped away, waited. Silence. No footsteps. No more whispers. Maybe it was over. Maybe. The doorknob twisted. Slow. Controlled. I swallowed a scream. Then, from behind me, a voice. My voice. You're not supposed to be here. I didn't turn around. Couldn't. Because I already knew what I'd see. My own voice had just spoken behind me. But I was standing right here. A slow, suffocating cold crept up my spine, locking my muscles in place. The doorknob to the basement was still turning. Something was trying to come up. Something was behind me, and I was trapped in between. My phone was still in my hand, the screen shaking from my unsteady grip. The security cameras were still down, all except one, the living room camera. I tapped the feed. The screen glitched for a second, then cleared, and I saw myself, standing in the middle of the living room. But I wasn't in the living room. I was here in the kitchen. The figure on the screen tilted its head, and then slowly, it started to turn toward the camera. I shut my phone off. A thud against the basement door snapped me back to reality. I spun around just as the door bulged inward, as if something had thrown its weight against it. I grabbed the nearest knife from the kitchen counter, clutching it so tight my fingers ached. Another thud, and then silence. I waited, heart slamming against my ribs. No more movement, no more twisting doorknob. Just the thick, pressing silence of a house that felt too alive. I took a slow step back. Then another. Then the TV in the living room turned on. By itself. A sharp, static hum filled the air, followed by the crackling of a news broadcast. I forced myself forward, one careful step at a time, moving toward the glow of the screen. The image flickered for a second before the sound cut in clearly. A news anchor sat stiffly in a newsroom, papers in hand. His voice was steady, too steady, like he was reading something that had already happened. Authorities are still searching for an 18-year-old male who went missing late last night. The home was found empty, with no signs of forced entry. Family members say he was last seen at... I stopped breathing. The news was about me. The screen flickered and suddenly, my face appeared on the screen. A missing persons report. I stepped back. I wanted to scream. This was wrong. So wrong. I wasn't missing. I was right here. But then, from the speakers, the newscaster's voice changed. Lower. Distorted. No, you're not. I turned and ran. I grabbed my car keys from the table, not caring about anything else. I needed to get out of here. Now, I sprinted for the front door. But the moment my fingers touched the handle, a knock sounded from the other side. Not frantic, not desperate, just waiting. I yanked my hand away as if burned. The knock came again, slower this time. I turned the deadbolt, bracing myself, ready to run. But before I could open the door, my phone buzzed. One new text, from my own number. Don't open it. I didn't listen. I should have, because when I pulled the door open, standing on the porch, staring back at me, was me. I slammed the door shut. My pulse was roaring in my ears, my skin slick with sweat. That thing outside, it had my face. It had my clothes, my stance, my everything. But it wasn't me. I backed away, the air thick with something I couldn't name. Then, from the other side of the door, the handle turned. I held my breath. A whisper seeped through the wood, low and slow. You need to let me in. I didn't answer. I didn't move. And then, after a long moment, the handle stopped moving. The house fell into complete silence again. Except, no, not silence. I could still hear something. A sound. Breathing. Not from the other side of the door. Not from the basement. It was coming from inside the room. Right behind me. I didn't turn around. Couldn't. The breathing behind me was too close. Too slow. Too measured. Like something was waiting for me to acknowledge it. The house was silent. The TV had shut off, the only light coming from my dim phone screen. I felt my pulse hammering in my ears, my throat dry, my hands cold. Then, from right behind me, a whisper. You can't leave. I spun around, heart slamming against my ribs. No one was there, but the air felt wrong, like the room was stretching, expanding in ways I couldn't see. The walls looked the same. The furniture hadn't moved, but something had changed. I took a slow step back. My body felt heavy, like I was moving through water. Then, a thud from upstairs. A sound like something heavy had fallen. I clenched my jaw. The house was playing games with me, trying to keep me here. I wasn't falling for it. I turned toward the door again, gripping the handle. It was warm, like someone had just touched it from the other side. But I pulled. Nothing. The door wouldn't move. Not locked. Not jammed. It just wouldn't open. Like the house was holding it shut. Like the house was holding me here. Then, from my phone, a notification. Live feed, front porch camera. I hesitated. My fingers trembled as I opened the app. The screen flickered, and for a second it was just static. Then the feed cleared, and I saw myself, standing on the porch, looking directly at the camera. I stopped breathing. The figure on the screen tilted its head. And then, it smiled. The smile was wrong. Too wide. Too knowing. I backed away, my breath coming in sharp gasps. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. I turned off the phone, forcing my legs to move. I needed to get out. Now, I bolted for the kitchen, heading for the back door. It had a sliding lock. Maybe, just maybe, I could break through. I reached for the handle, but before I could touch it, the entire house went dark. The air shifted. The walls groaned. I felt the pressure closing in around me, as if the space itself was alive. Then, something moved in the darkness. Not footsteps, not breathing. Something else. Presence. Something watching me. Waiting. I swallowed hard. Then my phone buzzed. Another text. No words, just a picture. I clicked on it, and my stomach dropped. It was a picture of me, standing in the middle of the living room, taken from behind. I turned around fast. Nothing, but the darkness felt closer, like it was pressing against my skin, curling around my body. I had to move. I stumbled forward, forcing myself toward the stairs. I didn't want to go up. I didn't want to see what was waiting, but something told me I had no choice. I climbed the steps, gripping the railing so hard my knuckles ached. The hallway stretched in front of me, long and empty. The bedroom door was open. I stepped inside, and I saw myself. I was lying in bed, eyes closed, breathing slow, asleep, like I had never woken up at all. My vision blurred. My knees felt weak. This wasn't possible. I was standing right here, but I was also... No. This wasn't real. I backed away, my breath shallow. The sleeping version of me stirred. Then the eyes snapped open, and they were looking directly at me. The moment my other self's eyes opened, the entire room shattered. The walls split apart, the ceiling cracked, and the air sucked inward like a collapsing vacuum. The weight of it slammed into me, throwing me backward, falling. I woke up gasping. The room was bright. Sunlight poured through the curtains. Birds chirped outside. I sat up fast, my heart racing. My room. I was back in my bed. The house was normal, like nothing had ever happened. I grabbed my phone. 7:32 a.m. No texts. No security alerts. No missed calls. Just silence. My hands shook as I pulled up the camera feed. Everything was clear. Everything was normal. I let out a shaky breath. Maybe it was just a dream. Maybe. My phone buzzed. One new notification. A text. No name. No number. Just 3 words.